Hello everyone and welcome back for another video here on my YouTube channel. This is Cassie. Today we're going to be making several Simon Hurley Create cards, and this is a newer stamp set. This is called the Handwritten Christmas. I'm in love with it. And then we have a peel apart. This is the stitched Snowflakes background. So we're going to stamp with water and hold tight. It's pretty cool. But before we do that, we do need to make some backgrounds. I have some stark white cardstock by Simon Hurley Create, and I'm going to start with my lightest color. I am blending that all over my background. That is an A2 size card front that measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And that first color that I've put down is Later Gator. And I'm a little heavier there at the bottom, and I've kind of gotten a little bit lighter at the top. We're going to go with an ombre look. And then I'm going to bring in Fake Plant. These inks blend so beautifully over the top of each other, and they layer on top of themselves so nicely. So you see that I'm getting this beautiful gradation of the color, and I can keep bringing in that Fake Plant at the bottom and make it darker and deeper and as deep and dark as pretty much that I want. And then I'll just keep bringing that color up with that blending brush that I'm using and just making sure that I have a good ombre look. I've done 3 backgrounds. The red one is with Bee Sting and Game Over, and the blue one is with some Breakup Blue and Remember Me. Now for our stamping. I'll pull out the insides of my MISTI, and then I'm going to take a little bit of mint tape, fold that in half, and put that behind each one of my backgrounds just to make sure it holds it in place in case I have to restamp. I'll pull out that pull apart background. Again, that is the stitched Snowflakes. I love the versatility of these backgrounds that Simon Hurley Create has because they peel apart. So you've got so much, it's not just a background, you also have separate snowflakes you can use as well. I'll put that in place, and then I start by spritzing just a couple times on my background with just some good clear clean water, and then I stamp it down. But this doesn't work as well, so we're going to do this again. That's where that mint tape comes in super handy to leave that down on my MISTI. I'm realizing it's not doing much, so I'm going to spritz it 4 times. So that's the key there, spritzing at least 4 times. Close the door of my MISTI and let it sit there for a second. So I'm going to push down on it and then just kind of let it sit there, let that water absorb into the paper. And as I pull that back, you're going to see what it does. These inks are reactive to the water, and there you go. You can stamp with water. I just think it's so neat. And it looks a little bit different each time. We're going to heat set this, but you could set that off to the side to dry on its own. And here we go. We'll do it with our red background, spritzing about 4 times. Close the door of that MISTI and let that sit for just a little bit. As I said, it's water reactive, and I love that you can not only watercolor with these inks, but then you can do really cool things like this. So that adds even more mileage to your stamps. You know, stamping with water, who'd have thought, right? And then each of those snowflakes looks kind of neat because it's not perfect. It kind of, the way a snowflake, well, snowflakes themselves are pretty perfect and so unique, but doing something like this gives it almost like that crystallized look to make it look like real snowflakes. So once again, stamping, pushing down, cleaning up my mess, and letting that sit for a few seconds while I let that water do its thing on that stark white cardstock. And we have another cool background. So I'll clean up my mess and put my stamp away. And then we're going to put the insides of the MISTI back in there so that we can do our regular stamping for our words. But take a look at those backgrounds. I just think they're so fun. All right, now I've brought in our Handwritten Christmas, and I'm going to ink up these images onto another piece of stark white cardstock. I should have conditioned my stamp a little bit, so I just bring in that Later Gator, and then I'm trying to do a little bit of a rock and roll technique on the edges. It doesn't work right away because I stamped that down, and I'm like, it needs to be restamped. Should have conditioned the stamp, but we'll bring in that Later Gator again. Once again, they layer on top of themselves super nicely, so you get this darker, richer tone. And then now I'll do that rock and roll technique using the Fake Plant on the edges, and I'll stamp that down. You'll see it definitely adds some depth to those edges. Clean up my mess, and I'll bring in the words Merry Christmas. Now I have to say, this Merry Christmas has to be my all-time favorite Merry Christmas stamp that I have ever owned. I love it. I love what Simon Hurley Create did here. It's like, I mean, it's handwritten because it says Handwritten Christmas. and it's just so beautiful. I want to put it on all of my Christmas cards. So we've stamped it again, and now I'm going to stamp down this little holly berry. This is the outline for it, and there is another stamp in there that is the fill-in. So I'll stamp that down. I'll bring in the little fill-in piece, try and line that up the best I can. And then I'll ink up the top part with our fake plant, stamp that down, and then the bottom part with game over. But I mean it. I love Merry Christmas the way that Simon Hurley has it written out. It's just so beautiful. And then using that crisp black ink, ugh, I'm in love. All right, so now we're going to stamp out our snowflakes, or our snowflake, and I do that with the Breakup blue, and then I do the rock and roll technique on the edges with our midnight snack, stamp that down, bring in the words Joy to the World using that VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And I don't think I said it earlier, but I did, you saw me do it. I stamped the words Christmas, the banner, using some, I stamped it onto some red cardstock. We're going to stamp that out later. But for this one, we're going to bring in the heart. I just wanted a little pop of red there. And now we have 3 sentiments for our 3 card base, or our card panels. And then I'm going to fussy cut each of these out. I'm going to fussy cut right on the edges of our banners, and then just bring in a Memento Tuxedo black marker to just ink up the edges so that those are nice and black as well. So I'll do that for both of those. And then I can just layer those right on top. So we masked right over that. And that worked out really well. So we'll do it for both of them. You could color it, but on the wreath it wouldn't work as well. So I'm just going to stick that down. Now we're going to take our backgrounds that we made. I'm going to trim off a tiny bit off of each of the sides, and then about a 1/4 inch off the bottom. I'm going to take those, they're about an 1/8 inch each, an 1/8 inch each of the sides, and I'm going to take those and I'm going to stick those on the insides of our card bases, just on each edge. It just kind of frames up the inside a little bit, and it does a little something, plenty of room to write to your recipient, but it does add a little something and ties the inside to the outside. And of course I'll leave a little fingerprint on the inside as well. I tease that I could never murder anybody with my cards because I leave my fingerprints all over them in ink. All right, moving on. We'll glue down our panels to our bases, and we have this nice white border around each one of those. We'll do it for each of those colors. And then we'll put some foam tape on the back of the sentiments that we stamped and fussy cut out, and then we can attach those down to our bases. And then I can't stop there. After I get all of those attached, I'm going to have to bring in some embellishment. Although you could leave it like this. I just think those bright colors are beautiful. I think I could make more of these and have so much fun doing it. I love it. But yeah, I do decide to bring in these Ruby Radiance gems that I have. I'm going to put a few of those on each one of the cards. And for the wreath, we'll put it on the wreath. So that'll add even extra dimension for that one. But once all of those little gems are down, that's going to finish off this cute little set of cards. I love how these turned out. Like I said, I could make many, many more of these. And it was just stamping with water. So if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.